Okay, so we are in the last section, okay, of this series of ILD, okay, and there are three entities that are left. One entity is from the subacute and acute ILDs, okay, that is acute interstitial pneumonia, although that is a very small entity, okay. We'll discuss at the end of this particular last session, and there are two entities, okay. So we discuss almost all major ILDs except acute interstitial pneumonia, okay. The only thing that is remaining is your rare ILDs, okay. So we didn't discuss about the rare ILDs, and there are two rare ILDs that we mentioned in the classification. One was your LIP, okay, and second was your PPFE. Okay, so let's discuss these, okay. And one that is remaining is your acute interstitial pneumonia, that is remaining, that is a part of your subacute and acute, all the acute ILDs of among the major. So these were the rare. These three entities are left, and let's finish them, okay. So first look at the LIP, okay. LIP, now LIP is nothing but your lymphocytic interstitial pneumonitis, okay. Lymphocytic interstitial pneumonitis, and now by the name it can be easily deciphered that there is infiltration of lymphocytes, okay. By name suggests that there is what lymphocytes or lymphocytic, okay, lymphocytic infiltration is there. Not only lymphocytic, you also have plasma cells or histiocytes basically getting infiltrated. And where does they get infiltrated? So they get infiltrated in what? Your alveoli, alveolar walls, ducts, okay, alveolar ducts and alveolar sacs, okay, this get infiltrated, okay. And basically they also form infiltration. So infiltration causes formation of lymphoid follicles as well. That is the histopathological aspect of this disease. Now on the basis of this infiltration, where the infiltration is going on, now infiltration, like let's again look at the secondary pulmonary lobule, okay. So you have bronchiole here, okay. You have bronchiole here and you have air spaces surrounding the bronchiole, okay. So you have bronchiole here. So if the infiltration is around the bronchiole, okay, that is your typically airway involvement is there, or you can say that there is lymphocytic bronchiolitis is there. So you see peribronchial, okay, this is what peribronchial, this is your peribronchial. Now since it is peribronchial, so that, and there is a formation of lymphoid follicles, okay. So peribronchial and lymphoid follicles are there. So the name is follicular, we can call it to be follicular bronchiolitis, follicular bronchiolitis. That is one thing that happens, that is one histopathological aspect. Because now if the inflammation spreads to the periphery and it involves the airway, it involves the airway, it involves your that lymphocytic infiltration involves the airways, that is this alveolar walls, ducts and sacs which are there in the periphery or around the peribronchial area. This part is what? Air spaces. If the infiltration happens here, okay, that air spaces are getting involved. Now this will lead to what? Air spaces getting involved. So the radiology finding related to that would be either a GGO or consolidation. Okay, GG or consolidation. Now when follicular bronchiolitis is there, so it will be, now look, the bronchial, it's a peribronchial inflammation, so it will give like what? Now it has a center of the lobule, so it will be centrilobular nodules. And since these are peribronchials, they will be poorly defined. They are not exactly involving the septa or interlobular septa or interstitium, so they will be poorly defined. So there are two things, if the infiltration is in your air spaces, primarily it causes GG or consolidation, and if it is causing involvement of small airway and causing peribronchial inflammation, it causes follicular bronchiolitis related, which is expressed in the form of poorly defined centrilobular nodules. Okay, now since airway is also involved, so there is a possibility that there is a bronchial obstruction also. Okay, bronchial obstruction can also happen. Since bronchial obstruction can also happen, which will give rise to formation of cysts. Cyst can be present. Okay, cyst can be present. Okay, so we have three patterns. Okay, we understood about its histopathology of LIP. That there is a lymphocytic infiltration in multiple areas of the part of the lobule, and on that basis you have either follicular bronchiolitis, either you have patchy GGOs, diffuse or patchy areas of GGOs, or consolidation that is due to airspace involvement or airspace infiltration by lymphocytes. And third, due to primarily follicular bronchiolitis only, you can have cysts. Okay, and the fourth thing that can happen is a perilymphatic nodules. Fourth thing that can have is perilymphatic nodules. Okay, this can also be happening, and it is commonly combined with septal thickening as well. Okay, so that is your fourth pattern that you can see. There are small perilymphatic nodules, small perilymphatic nodules with septal thickening. Okay, so this will these mimics, these findings mimics lymphangitis carcinomatosa. Carcinomatosa. Okay, so that was the fourth pattern. What are the three other patterns? I should write here only. First pattern was, okay, that is due to one pattern due to follicular bronchiolitis. What radiological pattern we will see? Due to this, you will see what? Poorly defined centrilobular nodules. Okay, that was this. Okay, second pattern was due to your infiltration of air spaces, so you can have patchy or diffuse areas of either GGOs or consolidation. Okay, and due to follicular bronchiolitis only, the third pattern could be that there are cysts. Now important point would be that this is due to follicular bronchiolitis only. Same pathology acting here also. Due to bronchial obstruction, cyst formation is there. Now if cysts are there, these cysts are characteristically what? Scattered, and they are not much, so there are few also. So there are few scattered, limited in number, and they are scattered. Okay, and they are typically perivascular. Okay, so remember this thing: scattered and few. Classically, this is the pattern. Like if this is your lung, that one cyst is here, one cyst is here, one cyst is here, few and scattered. Now, if in rare cases or in some cases they can be large, can be much in number, and in that case they can mimic honeycombing, although it's rare. Typically, there are scattered few cysts that is seen. So these are the four patterns of LIP that you see. And remember this thing, when you talk about LIP, okay, when we talk of LIP is rarely idiopathic. LIP, it is rarely idiopathic. It is commonly associated with many diseases, or it could be associated with a particular disease. Example, collagen vascular diseases, And if you ask me what is the one collagen vascular disease that you should always remember, and typical, in that particular disease, LIP is seen. And that LIP is also the very cystic pattern is seen of LIP. That is the fourth pattern that we wrote, third pattern we wrote, that cystic pattern, scattered cyst. And that LIP, that particular collagen vascular disease is known by the name of Sjogren syndrome. So characteristically, it is also with Sjogren syndrome, especially the cystic LIP. Okay, very important thing to remember. Other collagen vascular disease like rheumatoid arthritis, even SLE will have LIP. We can have LIP, but Sjogren syndrome is the most important to remember. Okay, second important autoimmune disease can be there like Hashimoto thyroiditis. Okay, you can have myasthenia gravis, autoimmune diseases. Okay, then immune deficiency diseases. Immune deficiency. Example AIDS. AIDS patient classically can have LIP. Okay, this is much association with AIDS patients. LIP. Remember this thing. Patient with myositis syndromes can also have LIP. Okay. Now, myositis syndrome patients also have one more important thing that I didn't tell before. That was a chronic organizing pneumonia. They can have this also. Chronic organizing pneumonia. Okay, myositis syndromes. And yeah, chronic organizing. And typically, what else it could be? Now, the remaining causes like drugs, toxic fumes. Okay, but more important to understand is these only: collagen vascular disease, autoimmune disease, immunodeficiency. These are the causes to which it is. There are other causes also, few rare causes. Okay, but it is really idiopathic. That is the more important point. And there are few correlations that like if you are seeing let's say this pattern, patchy and diffuse area of GGOs, it's commonly seen with immune deficiency. Okay, immune deficiency typically. And this the cystic pattern is classically seen in Sjogren. Remember this thing, Sjogren. I just told another collagen vascular disease as well. Now this poorly central lobular, this is also seen in collagen vascular diseases. Okay, but this perilymphatic nodules and all this thing, it is the most common LIP pattern associated with AIDS. Now, AIDS patient can also have this poorly defined central lobular. Okay, AIDS can also be seen here. But if you ask me, most common pattern of AIDS is this part of LIP. Okay, that is fourth. Okay, and Sjogren you should remember cystic pattern of LIP. AIDS you should remember perilymphatic nodules. Okay, rest like immunodeficiency you can also see in here. Rest are overlapping and you can see many things. Okay, so this is just like correlation only. Okay, there is no definite anything can be seen anywhere. Obviously, there are so many variations. Nothing is 100%. Okay, so that was about LIP, and let's look at images. So we have few images here. Okay, so look at this image. Now you can clearly see the thing that I was saying, that cystic pattern of LIP. Okay, I was discussing cystic LIP. Cystic LIP, look at the cyst. These are the cysts. Little bit wall is thick. This is scattered. Okay, so this was a case of Sjogren syndrome, diagnosed case of Sjogren syndrome. Okay, cystic LIP. Okay, nothing too much. Go about it. Now this is also a diagnosed case of LIP only, histopathologically proven case of LIP. Now you can see here what GGOs. So you see diffuse GGOs. So this is what diffuse GGOs are due to alveolar infiltration. So it could be associated with immune deficiency. Okay, we read about it. So that is all about the LIP. Okay, LIP part. Now let's move to second last thing in this particular discussion, and that is what? That is your PPFE. PPFE. So PPFE is what? Pleuropulmonary fibroelastosis. And again, we'll go by the name. We'll split the name. So it is your pleuropulmonary fibroelastosis. Okay, so it is pleuropulmonary fibroelastosis. One thing is that pleura is affected, lung parenchyma is affected, there is collagen because fibro word is used, fibrosis means collagen, and elastosis means that elastic tissue is also there. So there is elastic tissue as well. So there is deposition of collagen plus elastic tissue. Okay, this combination is deposited in pleura and pulmonary, that is lung parenchyma. Which pleura? Pleura is your visceral pleura. So what you will see here, you will see visceral pleural thickening. Okay, that is thickened here. That is the differentiating point. And what is the part of the lung that is affected? So those are the important points to be noted down. Upper lobes are affected. Remember this thing. Upper lobes are affected importantly. Okay. Now upper lobes are affected. So you have deposition of elastic tissue and collagen. Now there will be tethering. There will be contraction. Okay, due to fibrosis, which will cause what? Pulling of hila. Pulling up of hila. That will happen due to the tethering, because it will lead to what? Volume loss will happen. Due to collagen, volume loss will happen. It will cause pulling of hila. So typical like this, upward hilar, retraction and marked pleural thickening. That will be the features. Okay. Now it's a rare entity. First of all, it's a rare entity. So think twice before diagnosing it. Okay, and it's also histopathological. Okay, you will think of something else whenever you will diagnose it. PPFE. Uh, typical history that you see, patient is obviously 50 to 60 years of age, and the typical history is like the patient has a respiratory tract infection following which, okay, and 50% of these patients have respiratory tract infection history, and following this, they develop this PPFE. Okay, we understood about LRTI history also in cryptogenic organized pneumonia, where you have persistent symptoms of dyspnea, that where basically fibroblastic proliferation starts in your alveoli. So we read that in COP as well. So respiratory tract infection history is seen in 50% cases of PPFE as well, and there are few cases which they go on developing, they progress very rapidly deteriorate also. Okay, so these, now PPFE can have idiopathic cause, and like others also, there are few causes which can be associated with it. Classically, you see transplantation or post-transplant patients, with graft versus host disease and all those, with mismatch, and patient might be having family history or some autoimmune relation also there. So typically, like these are the cases: 50 to 60 years of age, male equal to female. Okay, so, and association, it could be idiopathic, or it could be or having cause. Because of cause can be there. Okay, so that is all about this particular. Now look at the image. Mainly upper lobes are involved. So look at the image. This is the image. Okay, now in coronal section, it is very clearly seen that if you see, the upper part of the lungs is affected bilaterally, and if you see closely, this is what? This is your visceral pleura thickened. So visceral pleura is thickened. Okay, upper lobes are involved, and there's pulling of upward hila also. Hila is upward pulled. Okay, so this is nothing but your PPFE, and that is obviously you cannot diagnose basically on the image, you can only suspect it, basically histopathological diagnosis. Okay, elastic tissue is there. Okay, PPFE, it's a rare entity. Okay, just for the sake of completing it, we did that. Okay, so if you see history of let's say transplant in a particular patient, okay, or GVHD is happening, something like that, or bone marrow transplantation in which, okay, typically GVHD seen. These are the cases where you can see PPFE. Okay, so that was all about the rare ILDs that we discussed. Now one last thing that was remaining is your acute interstitial pneumonia. Okay, and there is nothing much in this. Okay, so in acute interstitial pneumonia, now what exactly it is? So it is characterized under acute, subacute causes of ILD in the major ILD section. Now, since it is acute, definitely patient's clinical presentation would be acute respiratory failure. Okay, patient is going to present with acute respiratory failure, and so patient will deteriorate, very in very short history. Typically, uh, patient has a history of LRTI. Okay, and there is sudden rapid deterioration of respiratory symptoms. That is the typical history that is seen with acute interstitial pneumonia. But it is like an acute pneumonia. Okay, now if this patient, patient simply may die. Now another thing that could happen is that if what okay, why it happened, acute respiratory failure, how does it happen? So histopathologically, what you see diffuse alveolar damage, okay, with increased permeability. And if you remember, whatever we have just written, like DAD plus increased permeability is also seen where? Is seen in ARDS. So it is nothing but ARDS. Okay, it is nothing but ARDS. It will present like ARDS. What? It's a clinical picture. Clinical picture is called ARDS syndrome, acute respiratory distress syndrome. Histopathologically, you have diffuse alveolar damage plus increased permeability. That is a histopathological picture, or you can say acute lung injury. That is there. But since it is interstitial also, so in association with, you also see one thing, that is your on histopathology, that is your diffuse interstitial fibrosis. Diffuse interstitial fibrosis is also seen. Okay, along with that. Okay, and patient, sudden deterioration happens. Patient is on ventilator in 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, and the mortality is also high. That is one thing. So, and if you ask me that what will be the radiology of that, okay, so whether you have X-ray or you have HRCT, findings will always be of ARDS. Whatever you know about ARDS will be there. Now, I have discussed ARDS in 2-3 sections also. We discussed ARDS like picture in acute hypersensitive pneumonitis, which can present like this. We also discussed about ARDS in acute eosinophilic pneumonia. Okay, the video will be uploaded soon in eosinophilic lung disease. That also presents with an acute respiratory failure. Okay, uh, but their steroids, they have a role and they basically cause resolution also. But if you talk about this disease, this disease is quite deadly because more than 50% cases they die within 6 months and patient has a sudden deterioration. Imaging features are simply like ARDS. You won't be able to tell. Okay, but ultimately you have a diffuse interstitial fibrosis that is there. Okay, and you have in later stages where the patient recovers, and just like in ARDS, there's organizing phase. Okay, the patient has to go into the fibrotic phase at the end where you have fibrosis happening, which can ultimately lead to a fibrotic lung disease due to organization, and ultimately honeycombing and all those typical features of fibrosis like traction bronchiectasis may develop. So it's just like, that is there about acute interstitial pneumonia, nothing to worry about. You will just see in just like ARDS, we'll see diffuse, patchy GGOs, consolidation in typical lower lobes, dependent portion. So just like any ARDS that happens, okay, these will be the findings of acute interstitial pneumonia. Nothing to be much, to be worried about. So that was all about the discussion of ILD from my end, and I think we discussed ILD in and out. Everything is discussed from UIP to like end of this topic, and there are so many videos, multiple videos have been